Hey guys, I'm Jiraiya. This story is all about what if Naruto met Loki, the god of mischief. Loki has just fallen into a strange world in which he finds magic works in different ways. He is trying to restore what little magic is left in him as well as try to find a way back to Asgard. What he finds, however, is something unexpected that makes him think that maybe he isn't a monster after all, and maybe, this time around, the Allfather would finally be proud of him. Chapter 4, To Trick a Trickster. There is a moment of complete surprise. Loki halts his advances, green eyes narrowing, searching for the owner of the voice. The only thing he can see in the darkened cage is a pair of yellowish eyes gleaming with amusement as they observe him attentively. You know about me? Loki states, tilting his head while resuming his walking. He is careful with every step he takes, his hands behind his back while his cape billows calmly behind him. The creature growls, the sound of heavy fidgeting announces the movement coming from inside the cage. The creature leans in and the light touching him shows red fur and sharp, dangerous fangs. Of course I do. You reek of Asgardian blood. Not only that, the creature growls once again. Tell me, young god, what is the house of Odin doing in my domains? I am not from the house of Odin. Loki turns his face to the side, affronted by the comment. This time the cubus saunters slowly, his face and body fully visible now. Touch a nerve, did I? The fox smiles, his eyes gleaming as he lowers his head to watch Loki more closely. But, it doesn't matter how much you denied it, young god. You reek of the Allfather's essence. Loki doesn't look impressed, merely annoyed at the amusement gleaming in those yellowish eyes. The fox tilts his head, chuckling darkly. He is watching closely the god's reaction and is starting to enjoy this conversation. Loki growls lowly, hating the moment of weakness that show the fox he has, in fact, hit a nerve. Loki stares at the creature strolling to stand right in front of the cage. He looks up and there is a smirk on him. You don't seem to be that much of a lord or even a threat trapped inside a little boy. Loki leers as he gives the fox a long stare. The words of an incarcerate beast are meaningless to me. Watch your words, Silvertongue. Daddy isn't here to save you if I decide to teach you manners. Loki laughs. He really does, because it is somewhat funny, the idle threat behind the words of this creature. He laughs because the fox just revealed to him he knows more than he lets on at first. Loki decides to forego the daddy comment. For now. So, you have heard of me. Even in this distant world, and in this well-planned cage, you have heard of me. The cubus snorts, raising an eyebrow, his ears twitching with anticipation as the god moves in front of the seal of his cage. Who hasn't heard of the famous Loki Silvertongue and his older brother the mighty Thor? Loki clenches his fist, never losing the cold smirk as he glances at the cubus. Careful there, you wouldn't want to find out what a son of Odin can do to you, Kurama. This time the fox freezes his eyes, betraying the shock he is feeling as he glances at Loki. The god smirks, caressing the metal bars of the cage as his voice drips with innocence and amusement. Touch a nerve, didn't I? Loki raises an eyebrow, letting his words echo in the room. Kurama is watching the god in front of him, analyzing before lifting his chin, snickering a little. The surge of magic is potent. Loki doesn't think twice as he prepares for an assault, hands on his daggers, but it isn't necessary for him to fight. The fox merely bows his head, standing his full height as the magic around him starts to react. In less than a minute Loki watches as the creature shrinks, changing his appearance. There, in front of him, is a middle-aged looking man. Dark red hair, broad shoulders, naked chest with only a black kilt on him. His eyes are the same shade of yellow Loki has seen before, the fangs are still there. The man leans forward, smirking. Tell me, little god, what do you really know about this world? What do you really know about me? Loki thinks he has mastered the art of evil laugh. But hearing this creature transform into a more humanoid form and laugh, he realizes he was sorely mistaken. The demon's eyes gleam with mirth as he stretches out a hand in an attempt to grab Loki. Loki is far enough from his reach, but the intent isn't to grab Loki but to show the god. I have to admit I don't know much. Loki starts a slow pacing in front of the cage, aware of those amber orbs following his every move. I can only tell you what Senju Hashirama and Uzumaki Kuraja wrote about you. Kurama arches an eyebrow, his features looking handsomely with the gentleness that takes over them. Loki notices he is familiar with the names and, better yet, the creature seems to hold certain affection towards the mortals. I see, then your information about me is not misguided. Kurama sits on the ground, Indian style, placing his hands on his knees. If there are any mortals in this forsaken realm that I hold any respect for are the leaders of the Senju and Uzumaki clan. Really? What about Rakuta Sennin? There is a slight tense of the muscles, a twitching eyebrow and impassive eyes. What? Don't tell me I touch a nerve again. Loki gives Kurama a half smirk as the fox sends a glare his way. You should really learn to hold that tongue of yours, it may bring your demise in the near future. There is a long silence following the demon's words. Loki stops facing the right wall, feeling Kurama's curious stare on him. Loki takes with him his scepter, magic emanating from it as he turns around to face the Kyuubi. My tongue should be the last of your worries, Kurama. The fox's eyes take in the scepter, narrowing as he feels the power coming from it. He feels intent behind the god. There is something else, something chaotic fighting an invisible battle inside him. I read all about you and your siblings. Loki concentrates on the scepter in his hand. Kurama is looking at him with a hint of worry in his eyes. I heard the stories as well, and I discover something curious that I'm about to test with you. This only makes Kurama curious. Rising to his feet, Kurama takes in his natural form, leaning until his muzzle is pressed tightly against the cage. Loki doesn't move, merely observes, guard and curious at the same time. Desist now that you have the time. Why would I, when the stories talk about your great power? Loki chuckles, hitting the floor with the staff and feeling as the energy coming from the fox starts feeding it. You don't know what you're dealing with, even after reading the stories. Kurama starts lowering his gaze before growling out. Is this the protection the All-Father promises us? Is this how he repays us after all this time? Those words make Loki stop what he is doing. Kurama's face remains impassive, his gaze focuses solely on Loki. The god of mischief doesn't know what to say or what to think. This is the third time the fox has mentioned his father. But, what is the relationship between them? The stories don't specify anything beyond this world. Let me give you a word of advice, little god. Kurama cocks his head, glancing at some point on the wall before returning his attention to Loki. Do not let ignorance and greed manipulate your actions, or else, those around you will suffer more than chaos and mischief. Loki snorts, looking down at the scepter, the red light twinkling for a moment before settling down, returning the staff to its original color. You intrigue me. Loki's voice is soft with curiosity. And the power I just acquire will suffice until I can come back here again and find a way out of this realm. Loki hides the scepter again, sending a disdainful glare to the Kyuubi. I am not interested in your dealings with Odin, and you will well to remember this next time I pay you a visit. Who knows? Maybe by then, I will have the key to put you out of this prison without scarifying your powers to favor the boy. You really don't know what you're doing. The Kyuubi chuckles, snorting with amusement as his eyes follow Loki to the entrance of the room. Did you know, little god, that what happens to me happens to Naruto? This stops Loki. He glances at the fox and there is coldness inside his green orbs. Oh, yes. The Kyuubi can't or won't hide the glee in his voice as he analyzes the reaction. If I die, he dies. If I live, he lives. If I'm gone, he won't survive. Is it hard, isn't it? Loki doesn't turn and the Kyuubi merely keeps on talking. To be near the boy and not feel something for him. To be near him and not want to protect him. There is deafening silence and Loki purses his lips, closing his fist tight. Hear me well, Loki Odinson, I may be trapped inside the boy and the circumstances leading to this imprisonment may not be ideal, but, as a promise I will keep, the boy is under my protection. Loki tilts his head to the side, curious as to what exactly Kurama mean by that. If anything happens to him, you will feel the wrath of the Lord of the Immortals. It is the last thing Loki hears before feeling a pressure rejecting him. It isn't necessary as he leaves the place willingly. He had obtained what he is looking for, he doesn't need to overstay his visit. But, there is no rest for the wicked and soon Loki finds himself under the pressure of a sharp blade against his neck. The god smirks without moving a single muscle, his green eyes glancing out of the corner of his eyes. There he can see a figure no taller than him. Loki doesn't need to guess who is it because those blood-red eyes are a nice giveaway. I was wondering how long would it take for you to act. This time Loki does turn his head to face his attacker. the blade dangerously close to his jugular. I'm impressed, Uchiha Itachi. There aren't many people in this world who can sneak on me the way you just did. Itachi doesn't answer, instead he takes a step forward with a blank expression, eyes twirling dangerously. Now, Thor-san, without waking Naruto-kun, I would like to have a few words with you. Orochimaru isn't known for his patience regarding stupidity. He isn't too fond either of failure. His eyes, narrow to slits, focus on the young man he thought of using as a shell a long time ago. Way before he found out it was a useless casket. Even with his sickness, though, Kimimaru was a strong fighter and nothing or anyone had been able to break him. Until now. The Sannin looks over the young man who lays broken on the bed, moaning in pain, holding onto his side as his life slips away. To the other side, Kabuto isn't any better, and Orochimaru has to ask himself, just who is this lice myth that has put 4 of his best men in such a pitiful state? Kidomaru was dead, Tayuya has lost her right arm, Kimimaru is useless, and Kabuto is still trying to process everything. Orochimaru grits his teeth before leaving the room. He has heard enough about this person's abilities. He has heard enough about the changes and the power the man holds. Now he needs information about what is that lice myth calls magic and those strange abilities. If they prove worthy, then Orochimaru could make a better use of the man's body. Itachi is slightly startled when he feels a strange pressure surrounding him. The next moment he stands in the middle of the desert with the man grabbing his katana and hitting him on the abdomen. Watch your mouth, petty mortal. Itachi is shocked at what just happened. This man has taken him to a desert. A desert? The closest one is in Sunagakure, which means they travel kilometers away from Konoha in the blink of an eye. Itachi activates his Sharingan, making a quick succession of hand signs, spitting fire from his mouth. Katon, Gukaku no Jutsu. The fight is like nothing Itachi has experienced so far. The man, Thor, was skilled. He moves with the ability of a snake and fieriness of a lion. It takes a few moments, but in the end Itachi realizes with a pang of wariness the man is playing with him. The game, however, doesn't last long, and sooner than expected Itachi finds himself on the sand, a foot pressing tightly against his neck. This is your rightful place, mortal. Itachi narrows his eyes because, if anything else, he would never give the enemy the satisfaction of his subjugation. Who are you? I am beyond your mind. I'm known as Loki, god of mischief and chaos. There is shock gleaming in Itachi's eyes. There is also disbelief along with a suspicion born of facing an opponent stronger than you. I've heard the name of the gods. Itachi grasps, holding the ankle as he applies some pressure. Your name has never been there. Loki snorts, taking his foot away and stretching out his hand, a signal to help Itachi stand up to his feet. It is disconcerting. Itachi doesn't know what to make of such a gesture but glances at the offering hand, uncertain of what he should do. Attack or accept it? Loki takes the decision away from him. You better choose my hand, mortal. I do not want Naruto to seek retribution from me after I decide to pummel one of the few people who actually regard him with affection. Itachi takes the hand, red eyes meet green ones, and soon Itachi has a kunai pointing at Loki's throat. The trickster smirks, raising an eyebrow at Itachi's hesitance. If I do this, it is possible Naruto would hate me for it. Snarls Itachi, glaring with his Sharingan at Loki. Yes, probably. Loki spreads his arms and presses his neck towards the kunai. But, by all means, try it and you will discover that I lie you not about my status as a god. My gods don't have your looks or your powers. Then, you haven't met a real god. Doubt flickers inside the Sharingan red eyes. Itachi glances at the man, or god, in front of him and doubts because he feels it. The power he holds, he can feel it, and yet, there is something else. Why show mercy? And the question holds so much more behind it. It isn't only about the mercy, it is about the intentions behind said mercy. Why now? Why him? Why Naruto? You are different, for a mortal. Your eyes, Loki. Glances at the eyes as he speaks. They're different. Sharp, intelligent, I haven't met anyone with such eyes. And with those words Loki answers Itachi's question. He is useful. Whatever this man is planning, Itachi was useful for his purpose. Loki sees the emotions flickering in the red eyes. he knows the young man went to Naruto's place ready to interrogate an individual that represents a threat. He never thought he would be surprised and caught, but he was and is now contemplating his options. Then, just like the fox had done with him, Loki decides to push Itachi in the right direction. You seek Naruto's well-being, do you not? There it is, the emotions Loki has been looking for. He doesn't stop but rather push as far as he can. Do you not despise the way he is treated in a place he calls home? Itachi grits his teeth looking defiantly at Loki while pressing the kunai. I offer Naruto protection. I'm offering him a shoulder to cry, someone who won't look at him as a monster. Isn't that what you want as well, Uchiha Itachi? Dawn is close, there is a cold wind accompanying it. Loki sits facing the window, his hands closing around a cup of warm tea. In the end, Itachi took the right decision. He doesn't trust Loki, which is okay because he doesn't trust the young Uchiha. But, the young man is a great assess, he means it when he says no one on this realm has been able to sneak out on him. No one but Itachi. And the love he professed Naruto is all Loki needs. Itachi bended to his wishes. Loki grits his teeth, clenching his right fist while he presses against his mouth. His mind hasn't been so filled with thoughts since he first heard the news of the coming coronation of Thor. There is conflict inside of him, but Loki denies the possibility of going over those thoughts. He has already done the planning, some of the pieces were falling in place, that's all that matters. With that in mind, Loki stands up and with a twitch of his hand he disappears. Up there in a faraway distance, Heimdall narrows his eyes but not in a suspicious manner. It is more one of perplexity than anything else. He had never liked Loki too much, but he knew behind the lies and the mischief Loki had been good once upon a time. He had care and he had love, but something had changed it all. Now he was starting to see the old Loki with some new improvements. As always, the wisdom of the All-Father proved to be impeccable. The following day finds an eager Naruto with dirt and sweat all over his face and chest. He is only wearing pants, breathing hard while he tries the trick all over again. There is a gleam in his blue eyes, the concentration is something Uchiha Itachi has never seen before. And the heir of the Uchiha clan has seen a lot of Naruto, ever since the first day he saved the boy from what seems to be an accident. He doesn't know if this is the best option, he doesn't know if this is right. But he does it anyway because Loki is right. He cares for Naruto and he prefers to be here supervising than letting Naruto alone. Itachi still remembers the fight, still remembers the difference in power, and he has to wonder. No, you are doing it wrong again. The calm voice of Loki reaches his ears, he turns, narrowing his eyes while he follows the man's every move. Naruto is exclaiming while pointing at the blades, Loki is listening while holding back a roll of his eyes. Then the man lifts a hand to silence, effectively, Naruto before proceeding to teach him how to do it. And, as Itachi watches, he notices the mannerism behind the man's movements, the firmness of his hand and the effectiveness of his launches. He presents Naruto with a technique to throw the daggers, to make effective the impact. His words are soothing, almost enthralling, but they held something else. His words aren't usually found on the vocabulary of ninja or villagers. God or not, Loki is part of a noble family. Naruto is attracted to the man like a magnet to metal. He looks up at him with affection, and the way he forces himself to do the very best is what a child does to impress his father. How long had they known each other? 2 months. Was Naruto that hungry for affection, for attention he would receive it from anyone? Itachi clenches his fist, lowering his eyes. He, all of Konoha, has failed the 4th Hokage, they fail Kushina. And Itachi feels, deep inside his heart, the remorse of his failure, because he has known them. It was the 4th Hokage the one to give him his first Hitaiate, it was Kushina the first one to give him his first mission as a Chunin. Naruto is now giving it his all, the blades on his hand are held clumsily, but as he keeps trying his technique starts improving. Soon he is watching the blonde with Loki standing beside him, the man is a mask of unreadable thoughts and Itachi doesn't take the silence too well. Why are you helping Naruto? It is the question that has been burning Itachi since he fell on the hands of this god. There is a slightly tense of the shoulders, reluctance in the movements before the voice, soft and hypnotizing, starts talking. Do you believe him a monster, Itachi? Loki tilts his head, his green eyes are sparkling as he speaks. Do you believe the demon seal inside him would unleash its fury upon your people when the time is right? Itachi gasps at the mention of the Kyuubi, a knowledge not many have, but he shouldn't be surprised, should he? He had seen the man with a hand on Naruto's seal, even if he doesn't know what happened that day. Do you think, given the time, the fox and Naruto would become one? They would become the monster everyone in this village fear. This time Loki turns around and confronts Itachi with his mere presence. Itachi can't look away as he feels the weight of those questions inside his mind and heart. The people of Konoha, even though Itachi loves his village, are all fools. They blame the kid for something he doesn't have control over nor is he aware of. Itachi can see there is something else, there is more hidden behind the words this man/god speaks, but, for the first time in his life, he can't figure out what it is. Naruto is no monster, he is a hero. Loki smiles a bitter smile. Indeed. Let us train. I want to see your real abilities, Itachi. Please do not hold back because I won't. Later that day Itachi arrives home with sore muscles, several wounds, and half of his mind believing the gods' theory. Because no one could spend half a day training and doing everything they did without breaking a sweat. Sasuke frowns approaching his brother as Itachi takes off his sandals and his shirt while holding back a gasp. The young Uchiha is watching with apprehension and worry the wounds on his brother. Nisan, are you okay? Itachi turns around smiling gently at his little brother. Of course I am, he sees the worry written on Sasuke's face and shakes his head. Don't worry, I was out training. Oh, I was wondering, Sasuke. Bites his lower lip and looks away shyly before gathering the courage he needs to speak with his brother. What is it, Sasuke? Well, father taught me these neat moves and I was wondering if you could help me. Itachi almost winces because he loves Sasuke, but really, after today he just needs the rest, besides tomorrow he would be needed back at the Hokage's tower for a mission. He stands up, looking at Sasuke while lifting his arm, his index and middle finger hold up together to poke Sasuke on his forehead. Forgive me, Sasuke. Maybe another time. Sasuke watches his brother leave with a hurt look in his eyes. Time passes again. Soon, the whispers of different names become outspoken in bars or meeting points for different shinobi. Orochimaru has been, to a point, one of the most renowned. The man was a sociopath with some ill-suited tastes for young flesh. And while he is still one of the most wanted criminals, he isn't the reason shinobi are whispering around. There are two different threats. The ones wearing dark cloaks with red clouds and the man who calls himself Smith. The threat resides behind the fact no one knows what do they look like nor do they know their real intentions. It is Jiraiya of the Sun in the first one to get a hold of those rumors and, as always, he is the first one to actually do something. He has heard from some important people what you have to do to get into contact with Smith. Pray to him as if you were praying for your life. At first, Jiraiya thinks it's a joke. He isn't about to pray to some maniac as if he actually answers prayers. So, as he keeps digging for information he starts believing this whole praying thing. Mainly because everyone seems to agree at that point. Just pray, Jiraiya-sama. Go to a temple and put your pray on the board. He would find you and you won't regret whatever you ask of him. Jiraiya feels stupid doing this because he hasn't been in a temple since the last war, and the last time well, let's just say he doesn't think the gods would be happy with him if he puts a foot inside their temple. Nevertheless, he does. And waits. His prayer is answered 2 days later. He sees a distinguished-looking man moving his way. Broad shoulders accompanied by shoulder-length blonde hair, a short beard adorning his strong features. Deep blue eyes narrowing as they focus on him, movements steady and confident that spoke of class and power. He is wearing expensive clothes, made of black leather, silver, and gold metal and green editions. On his hand it's a scepter, a curious staff that can be used as a help to walk, and a deathly weapon. Jiraiya feels it. It is not ordinary metal what covers neither the clothing nor the staff Smith has in his possession. And Jiraiya understands the power the man is displaying. It is reinforced by the special metal in which the flow of chakra can be infused. In all my travelings I never expect for Jiraiya of the Sun to ask for my services. The man's voice is thunderous, deep, and commanding, sending a shiver of warning through Jiraiya's spine. Do tell me, Jiraiya-sama, what can I do for you? The smile the man gives him makes him regret he ever follow those fools' advices. Smith, I suppose. The man nods his head and sits down, his back to the door of the bar, hand on top of the table. Jiraiya just stares at him for a long time, lowering his gaze to the bottle of sake resting patiently at his side. I thought the rumors were a lie, or maybe something someone invented. Understandable, but I assure you they're not. So please, don't spoil this meeting trying to assess my abilities. Jiraiya shoots the stranger a suspicious stare. Be intelligent and test me in a manner we won't destroy any private property. Jiraiya contemplates the man in front of him. There is something he doesn't get, something off about him. But the Sunin can't argue with the logic. He is quite fond of this bar, so he wouldn't want it gone because he engages himself in a fight. I require information. Of course, anything you want for a reasonable price. Jiraiya snorts and the man chuckles. Define reasonable. There is a spark inside those blue eyes Jiraiya doesn't like much. The smile is soon turned into a wicked smirk. Money is not the only mean of payment. Loki leans backwards, full aware of the coldness behind Jiraiya's eyes. How about a favor for a favor? Favor? What kind of favor would you want? Jiraiya leans forward, placing his hand firmly on the table. You should know I won't betray my village or any other kind of secret. Jiraiya trails off when he hears the laugh, the dismissing hand coming from the man. No, nothing of that, I won't require that kind of favors. Loki smirks as he leans forwards as well. Just a favor, I won't require it immediately, but I would let you know when it is time for me to collect my part of this bargain. The man is dangerous, pretty dangerous indeed. Jiraiya has half of his mind made to just strike the guy and capture him. The other half is just asking him to be prudent and test the man. He needs more information. Besides, the man may as well be bluffing. What if I don't think your price matches the results I need? Loki shrugs his shoulders. That won't happen, but if it does, then you owe me nothing. Then the atmosphere around Jiraiya changes. It is cold and chilling. The man's blue eyes transform into deep, green ones. But know this, Jiraiya of the Sunin, I don't take kindly to betrayal. Then a half smirk is directed his way. As you may have heard from your former teammate Orochimaru. Jiraiya's eyes grow wide because he has heard the story. He has heard some of Orochimaru's minions had been killed and gravely injured by the very same man sitting in front of him. Don't worry, I'm not like the idiot of Orochimaru, so you can at least count on me to carry out my part of the bargain. Jiraiya shrugs as he takes a sip from the bottle beside him. Of course, as long as the info I require is good enough. Of course, so, shall we seal the deal? Asks Loki, offering his hand to Jiraiya. Jiraiya takes the offering hand in his. After a moment of hesitation, he glances and the green eyes had disappeared behind blue ones. Tell me, then, what do you need? Jiraiya observes intently at the man for a few seconds. Then, I need to know everything about a new group. I need you to tell me everything you can about Akatsuki. Naruto is bored. That's why he is at the tallest building of Konoha with a water bomb on his hand, tongue sneaking out as he waits. And waits. And waits. What? Who the foo? Naruto laughs, hiding away before anyone can see his small figure. He can hear the man screaming down, totally wet and looking for the culprit. There are sounds of others laughing, and the man screaming promises of bodily harm as he asks to be allowed inside the building. Naruto stands up and goes directly to the stairs, running fast down them, moving directly to a hotel room. He hears as, moments later, the staff of the hotel and the man are walking rapidly to see if they can catch the little shit who wet the man with a balloon filled with water and pink dye. He waits until he is satisfied no one is around to exit the room and run down the stairs. He is wearing a huge grin, escaping the watchful eye of the guard and the rest of the hotel staff to the busy streets of Konoha. He has been bored without Loki or Itachi around. But today is a happy day. He looks up at the Mount Hokage and presents the faces carved on the stone his thumb up. He promises he would do the very best and become the best Hokage ever. He wouldn't allow people to ignore him anymore. He wouldn't allow them to call him names or question his intelligence or abilities. He walks around the village aware of the stares he is receiving, of the whispers behind his back. He doesn't understand it, but it had, long ago, stopped to be an issue for him. For, even if these people don't like him, Naruto has people who do. The welcoming ceremony is nothing like what Naruto imagined. He is asked by the Umbu with the dog mask to situate himself on the front row. He looks around curiously and there is a pang of longing and envy in his heart. He sees kids his age with their parents, all of them smiling, mothers fixing their children clothes, fathers ruffling their kids' hair. All wearing proud stares, all wearing happiness. Naruto tries not to care, but it is evident some of them don't want him here. He watches out of the corner of his eyes as a kid with lavender eyes staring at him with an obvious look of disgust and annoyance in his face. He passes Naruto just as the woman holding his shoulder mumbles something in his ear. Naruto lowers his head. He is the only kid alone in the middle of the ceremony. There isn't any father giving him a proud smile, there isn't a teary mother proclaiming how big his little boy is. As he hears the Hokage speak, Naruto has never felt alone in his whole life. He had been happy when the Hokage told him, after so much begging, he could apply to the Ninja Academy. He was one step ahead of his dream, but there is a knot on his throat and Naruto feels his eyes burn with unshed tears. Once the ceremony is over, all the kids go to their parents while Naruto stands there. Naruto-kun, I'm really proud you make it. Naruto takes a deep breath and lifts his face, grinning widely at the Hokage who is smiling down at him. Thank you, Ajiji. There is a young man behind Sarutobi, a scar covering his nose, his black eyes narrowing. Hokage-sama, boy. It may take. The young man trails off when the Hokage lifts a hand sending a warning stare to him. It's okay, Irika. Naruto-kun, it's allowed to call me that. Naruto sticks his tongue out before turning his attention back to the Hokage. I'm glad I could get in. Finally I'm gonna be a ninja. Says Naruto with enthusiasm. People around him shoot him annoyed glares, some of them look even worried. The Hokage laughs, ruffling Naruto's hair. You still need to graduate, so I expect you to be the best student in here. You got it, old man. The young man, Irika, scowls but says nothing. The Hokage bids Naruto farewell and leaves with Irika close behind. Naruto is left alone once again. He looks up trying to decide what to do next when he hears it. Did you hear? That boy is entering the academy. Yes, apparently Hokage-sama wants the boy on a tight leash. Humph, as if, probably used one of his tricks, the little monster. SSSHH, shut up. Do you want to be punished? Oh, please. Everyone is thinking the same, I'm just the only one voicing it. How can Hokage-sama allow that thing in the academy? With our children. I'm going to warn my son. Yes, better not let innocent children around him, we don't want them to be corrupted. When Naruto turns around he sees the two women who had been speaking, they notice him watching them. In a moment of silence, the women send disgust looks to Naruto before presenting their backs to him. Swallowing hard, Naruto holds on to the tears forming in his eyes. He clenches his fists and takes off running as fast as his little legs would allow him. Loki rolls his eyes. The room has silver daggers and kunai all around the walls. And the walls, of course, have red spots all around them. Each red spot has a single dagger or kunai. This is the way Naruto shows he can hit the target flawlessly. It makes look his apartment like a pincushion. Loki sweeps the place with his eyes and notices not only Naruto's handiwork but also the empty boxes of ramen. The trickster sighs, deciding Naruto needs to eat something else for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Maybe he can take Naruto to Tsunagaku. The boy has liked the meat they have to offer and he had made friends with a redhead brat who wouldn't speak, mainly because Naruto spoke enough for the two of them. Well, friends would be pushing too far. They were merely acquaintances. Or maybe he can take Naruto back to Kumogaku. That would be better, yes. The door of the apartment opens and Loki turns around ready to speak when he is assaulted by an overly emotional blonde. His arms are tightly wrapped around him. The boy buries his face on Loki's hip. When Loki looks down he notices the movement in Naruto's shoulders. The soft whimpering sound coming from him. Naruto, what happened? He is not worried. He is curious. And if Loki repeats that several times he may believe them, and probably, at the same time, Heimdall may come and declared his undying love for him. Denial is a marvelous thing. Yes, the god of mischief tries to hold the roll of his eyes because Naruto is looking up at him with tears in his eyes and face. This isn't the time to think about anything else but the misery reflected in those blue eyes. See, can you tell me, can you tell me a story? It's a strange request. Loki isn't sure how to comply. He doesn't know why he does what he does, really, he doesn't. But this boy. He leans over, picking him up in his arms. Naruto buries his face on the crook of his neck, holding tightly. He sits on the unmade bed, not without sending a reluctant look to the bed. Making a great effort, he sits and fixes Naruto on it. He doesn't know what to do exactly. It is not as if he doesn't know this kind of routine, because he does. This is what he did with Fenrir and Hel when they had nightmares. There is a difference, though. Fenrir and Hel are his children, his beloved son and daughter. Naruto isn't his son. Loki swallows as he remembers Frigga putting his head on her lap, caressing his hair and telling him stories. And he remembers Odin taking him and Thor out, narrating some of his adventures. But Odin isn't my father, and Naruto isn't my son. He looks down at Naruto, who has silent tears in his eyes, then with a flicker of his hand he makes the room dark. Let me tell you the story of the mighty Thor, his younger brother the god of mischief, and their companions, the warriors 3 and Lady Sif. Naruto furrows his brows, he cuddles closer to Loki and listens attentively. Mayuma. Naruto likes Thor. Of course he likes him, everyone loves Thor. And Loki isn't hiding behind the shadows, arms cross, a petulant grimace, pout, on his face as he watches Naruto play out the story he told him last night. It's Mjolnir. He mumbles, not really caring too much in correcting Naruto. Naruto of course doesn't listen, he is too busy running around all excited while narrating his own version of the adventures. He is making battle screams and jumping up and down the tress, and then he puts his daggers and engages himself in battle against a tree. Loki huffs, and this is how Itachi finds him. The Uchiha is curious but at the same time amused. Good morning, Loki-san. Loki grumbles. Itachi arches an eyebrow, then turns to look at Naruto. What's Naruto-kun doing? Playing. And Loki spats the words as if it was poison. Itachi rolls his eyes because this isn't the first time he witnesses something like this. But, it is the first time he catches a tone of hurt in the man/god's voice. Itachi. And then Naruto jumps in front of them, grinning widely with sweat falling down his forehead and dirt on his nose. Naruto-kun, you're energetic this morning. Naruto nods, turning his blue eyes, with a spark in them, to Loki. Yep. I'm going into the Ninja Academy. And last night, Naruto trails off suddenly, his eyes looking down before he continues. Loki told me an awesome story. Itachi hears, understanding the almost mishap there. Loki doesn't seem to have noticed, but then again Itachi may be wrong. The man is still a mystery. Itachi kneels down, ruffling Naruto's hair with a soft smile. I'm pretty proud of you, Naruto-kun. That's why I brought a gift. Naruto's eyes go wide and impossible bright as he watches in disbelief at Itachi. A gift? Why? Itachi furrows his brows. Loki leans forward, looking curiously. Why? Because entering the Ninja Academy means you're a big boy now, Naruto. Big boys can't go around dressing like little kids but like ninja. And Itachi pulls a package form behind him, handing it to Naruto, who is still watching with disbelief mixed with happiness. Then Naruto wraps his arms around a surprise Itachi. Thank you. He mumbles, because he has never gotten any gifts. Not one such as this. It's my pleasure, Naruto-kun. I know you'll do well in the academy. Later, after Naruto had narrated to Itachi his first day at the academy, they are making their way back to the village. Loki is walking beside Itachi a few steps away from Naruto. Is it true? Itachi turns to Loki, who has a thoughtful expression. What is it? That, when you enter this academy, you are considered an adult. That you should be given a gift of some sorts. Itachi halts, black eyes glancing with curiosity to Loki, who is still thoughtful and a little confused. Yes, usually if the family is a shinobi one, they would give their kid their first ninja gear. Itachi turns to Naruto. If you're part of a civilian family, they usually gift you with something else, like weapons or a vest. Naruto doesn't have any family. Yes, he does. Loki turns to Itachi, whose eyes are still on Naruto. He has me and he has you, Loki-san. Please, don't spoil this or I will hunt you down and rip you apart. God or not God? Loki is startled. This was the second individual threatening if any harm comes to Naruto. Loki is curious because none of these individuals have any actual blood ties with the blonde. Why are they so worried about him? The answer is poking him with images of what Loki himself had done for Naruto. The trips, the training, the stories. Do not concern yourself, Uchiha Itachi. I do not intend for any harm to befall Naruto. Not from my hand or the hands of others. Itachi nods once, turning his back to Loki and catching up to Naruto. The god of mischief is left behind to his own thoughts. He can't believe this puny mortal would threaten him, would even suggest bodily harm to him. And Loki can't believe he believes the young man is capable of doing so. Snorting with amusement, Loki leaves in the hopes to find a suitable gift for Naruto. Naruto fixes the shirt as well as the vest. He is looking at himself on the mirror with a critic eye. So far, his clothes include a rather large supply of hand-me-down articles, usually tear at some parts or with permanent stains. It wasn't a problem, since Naruto spends most of his day running around the village, pranking people and hiding when older kids decide to play punching bag with him. So, usually his clothes end up dirty and torn. He watches his reflection again, feeling a warm inside his chest. The black cargo pants are perfectly comfortable. With enough pockets for Naruto to hide away his daggers and other curiosities, the vest has the same design as those used for the Chunin and Jonin, only his is dark orange with a red whirlpool design on the back. His t-shirt is black as well, and the design form of the whirlpool is embroidered with careful patterns in the middle of his chest. You look presentable. Naruto turns to Loki with eyes narrow. Really? Yes, it is fitting of your new position. Loki tilts his head, his eyes dancing around while his left hand moves inside his pocket. This is something for you, a gift for the next step towards your adulthood. Naruto blinks, torn between happiness and confusion. He looks eagerly as Loki opens the small box he has on his hand. Inside there it's a pendant. But not any kind of pendant, it has a curious form Naruto has never seen before. Then his eyes lit up with mirth as he realizes what the pendant resembles. It's Mayuma. This time Loki does chuckle, shaking his head. Mjolnir. He corrects. Naruto scrunches up his nose, trying to get the right pronunciation. Mjolnir. Naruto stretches his hand, his fingertips brushing the cold surface of the silver metal. While the color in general is dark silver, it is inlay with green and black as well. I know you like the story, and you like the weapon as well. Loki presents the necklace to Naruto, who starts putting it on himself. I thought you may like it. I do. Thank you. Loki doesn't say anything, he is conflicted to even return the sudden embrace. Before he knows it, Naruto is gone and Loki is left alone in the apartment. He contemplates for a second leaving the place and probably not coming back. Ever. But, he has work to do, so he decides to stay and see how Naruto's day goes. Naruto arrives early, which gives him the advantage of choosing where he is going to sit. He decides to go to the furthest chair in the room, in the right corner on the last row. He sits and waits. Soon after kids start arriving, there is the boy with lavender eyes, long, dark brown hair and pale skin he met the day of the welcoming ceremony. Just like he had done that day, the boy sends Naruto a look of disgust accompanied by a sneer. He lifts his chin and sits on the first row. Naruto rolls his eyes, crossing his arms. He knows he is the younger in the group. They usually start the academy at age 7 and Naruto is soon to be 6. It is almost expected for all of them to look Naruto like a nuisance. Naruto merely shrugs and leans against his chair, waiting for the teacher to show. It takes more minutes and more kids entering the room. Naruto's eyes turn to Fuzzy Brows, an exuberant kid which is always enthusiastic and quite kind with Naruto. The blonde likes him because it's one of the few kids who actually speaks to him as if Naruto is an equal, no some kind of insect. You must be Uzumaki Naruto, right? Naruto tilts his head, turning to the source of the voice. To his left there are two kids who he doesn't remember meeting before. The one who spoke to him has gray, short hair, his eyes are a light shade of black, he has a round face and a kind smile in place. Behind him there is another kid, this one with dark, short hair and equally dark black eyes. His skin is pale, contrasting with the black of his hair and eyes. The blonde eyes them with curiosity. So far aside from Lee, these two are the only ones to address him amicably. This is why Naruto after a little while narrows his eyes, lifting a single eyebrow. And what if I am? I'm Shin, this is my brother Sai. Says the gray-haired boy. He offers his hand to Naruto. I only want to meet the youngest student allowed in the Ninja Academy since the Third Shinobi War. Naruto's eyebrows shoot upwards at those words. He eyes the offering hand for a moment before taking it in his, giving a smug grin to Shin and Sai. Really? I am the youngest? Ajaji never say anything. A pleasure to meet you, Shin and Sai. I'm Naruto. Shin takes a seat beside Naruto and Sai takes his beside his brother. Naruto eyes the both of them while wanting for Shin to tell him more about Naruto's status as the youngest member of the Ninja Academy. So, how do you know I'm the youngest? Shin sends him a half smile while speaking. Our guardian explained to us that after the war they decided to put a law so only when we turned 7 we would be able to enter the academy. It was so we weren't made to go to missions and stuff so young, since there isn't any war. Wow, I didn't know that. This time Naruto's smile is off. Shin notices the sudden gleam in those blue eyes. Well, then I would make sure everyone remembers that when I graduated. That's the spirit. Shin shares a laugh with Naruto while Sai seems completely at lost. Then, Umino Iruka arrives and their laughs are cut short as the class starts. Chapter 5, Leap of Faith. When they were kids, it was Loki the one who always got them out of trouble. He would speak while Sif, the warriors 3 and Thor would put on miserable expression on their faces. Frigga would smile subtly, Odin would look impassive, the ones who had been at the end of their pranks would be screaming, red in the face looking for punishment. Loki always had good excuses, perfect words, even at his young age he would confounded their accusers which, in the end, would make Odin forwent any punishment and free the kids to their games. It's what earned him the name Silver Tongue. Some of the courtesans gave him more nicknames, none as well-intentioned as the one Thor and the others had given him. But Loki didn't care. This was something he was good at, something that makes Sif and the Warriors 3 held a moderate amount of respect for him. It made him a part of their group, of their adventures. All of Asgard trembled when they heard the 2 children of Odin laughed with mirth. Their friends close behind making Asgard trembled under their footsteps. This usually meant they were up to not good. Thor smiles wishfully. Morning is approaching fast. Thor has his back against the wall watching the sky from the balcony. His blue eyes are focused on some point while his mind wanders around the realms, thinking and longing for Jane, for Loki, for an answer. I've seen, my prince, you spent a lot of time in my father's quarters. Thor gives a start turning around to see the form of a young man standing at the door. Thor looks pleasantly surprised, taking in the slender form of the young man who is approaching slowly, almost methodically. The young man has a half smirk on him, showing off sharp fangs. His eyes are adorned with a hint of green and black, always gleaming with mischief and desire. He has dark hair, as dark as the night, with fangs falling on his eyes giving him a curious yet dangerous appearance. His clothing is composed by simple trousers and a tunic of gray and red. There is also a golden and silver collar around his neck with a single gemstone twinkling blue. I see you have adopted the same manners as my brother, nephew. The smile the young man has only grows as he finally stands beside the god of thunder. You have improved with age, Fenrir. My brother has been the only one capable of such a feature without me realizing it. Fenrir feels the heavy hand from Thor on his shoulder, squeezing lightly while the blonde god gives him a gently smile. Thor is the only one always pleased to see him, the only one who would offer a smile and extend an invitation to train or to eat. Frigga and Loki are the ones who always invited him over for a talk, or long walks. Fenrir lowers his eyes feeling the longing in his chest. He misses his father's stories. He misses the warmth at seeing his 2 favorite people beside him. Are you well, Fenrir? You look sorrowful. Aren't we all? Fenrir shrugs Thor's hand away taking a few steps to rest his chest against the rail. Aren't we mourning my father's dead? Isn't that why you're always here, uncle? There is pain reflecting on Thor's blue eyes. He turns around watching the state his brother's room is in. They haven't changed anything. Thor and Frigga make sure no one would dare to change things inside the room. If his brother was to come back, he would be most displeased at seeing the alteration of his room. Loki still lives. And Thor's voice is filled with conviction, it is filled with hope. Of that I am certain. Fenrir sighs, tilting his head to hide away the doubt in his eyes. He turns to see Thor watching inside Loki's room. The young man knows Thor misses Loki as much as he does, but still a part of him can't help but blame the firstborn son of Odin for everything that went wrong. If he does, why isn't he back? Why doesn't he ask to be brought back? Fenrir goes to his uncle's side, scowling openly as he continues. Maybe father is wise to keep away from Asgard. Why would he be in a place where he isn't appreciated? What are you saying? Thor is matching the scowl Fenrir has. He is eyeing the black-haired boy. Loki did some wicked things, but he is still my brother. He is still a prince of Asgard. And he is loved and missed. If he hasn't come is because he can't. Fenrir lifts his head to watch Thor. He contemplates the man, wondering how someone as powerful as he is can be so naive. Why does he have so much faith when it is evident there isn't any? It is curious, my prince, how you realized that after my father uncovered his plans, and he isn't here for you to say those things. Thor clenches his fist, but Fenrir isn't over yet. My father loves you very much, uncle. But he has always been a shadow. The trickster. The liesmith. The shapeshifter. Fenrir takes a step inside the room, his hand resting on the only thing Loki never took with him on his fall. His helmet. The young man is brushing his fingertips against the material with affection and regret. Father only wants acceptance. He wants to be looked as your equal. To make the All-Father proud, but the only thing he got was dead, loneliness and mistrust. Brother is well known for his tricks and his way with words. Thor trails off the moment Fenrir's eyes meet his. I know you meant well, uncle. Perhaps you didn't know how to do it before, but now that you know how. Fenrir shrugs, and Thor feels the weight of those words ripping away his heart. Now that you know how to make father understand he is love and need, he isn't here. He is gone, and whether he is alive or not, there is nothing you can do. Fenrir tenses up as Thor approaches him. There isn't anything on his face to betray his intentions, but Fenrir has been at the end of Thor's infamous hammer, so he doesn't trust completely. Suddenly, something unexpected happens. There are two big hands on each of his shoulders, and there is warmth inside Thor's blue eyes. My brother taught you well, Fenrir. Thor shares a genuine smile with his nephew, wrapping his left arm around his shoulders. You speak like him, although you still need practice. Fenrir feels a bubble of pride inside of him. He chuckles, looking to the helmet. Well, someone has to fill the void father left behind. At least, until he is back. Replies Thor, and Fenrir feels sympathy for the conviction in Thor's voice. For now, let us train. Today I feel like honoring brother in a training session with you. I don't think I could handle it at all, uncle. Thor laughs, shaking his head while dragging at his reluctant nephew down to the training grounds. Odin stands beside Heimdall, his eyes to the horizon, watching the darkened sky filled with stars and constellations, the many worlds spreading out in front of him. What can you see, Heimdall? It is the first thing Odin always says when standing beside the gatekeeper. The man is used to this and usually finds it strange to share with the king the happenings in the small realm where Loki is learning his lesson. Odin straightens up, his own eye trying to glance inside the realm he hasn't had any contact with since he first became king. Heimdall knows what the king is asking. What is his real interest? Without taking his eyes from the sky, he answers. Prince Loki hasn't hid away from me in a long time. There is something in Heimdall's tone, something that brings to the surface Odin's curiosity. If anything, he enjoys showing me his dealings in this world. To Odin it almost sounds as if Heimdall himself enjoys the visions his son is allowing the gatekeeper to see. Odin feels strange, is a mixture of dread and pride. It is all mixed with the hope that his younger son would soon understand the same way Thor did. I also see shadows. Odin turns to Heimdall with a frown. Shadows darker than anything I've seen before. The rumors of shadows in this realm worry Odin. Lesson or not lesson, Odin doesn't want to jeopardize his younger son's life or his resistance to power and more mischief doing. This world can be quite the temptation for anyone who understands it. Loki has always been the most intelligent of his children. What is it then, Heimdall? What do you think is hiding in these shadows? And, the concern is there, behind the king's tone. It is subtle, almost imperceptible. It is no wonder Loki never picked it up when it was directed to him. That I cannot tell, my king. These are shadows I am not used to see or decipher. Heimdall furrows his brow, concentrating in his eyesight. But, the young prince is always near it. He approaches it with suspicion but ignorant of the dangers hidden behind them. Odin turns his body to the edge of the bridge, his soul eye narrowing to observe in the distance. There is conflict inside Odin's heart. Trust is not easily given, but it is easily broken. He loves his son dearly. It doesn't matter what Loki thinks or believes, Odin's feelings have always been of love for his son. Odin feels for him the same kind of love the All-Father has for Thor. And, while trust may have been shattered, Odin wants to believe in Loki once more. He wants to believe, the way Frigga and Thor do, Loki is capable of doing the right thing in the end. The All-Father had meant it when he said, a long time ago, both his sons were born to be kings. He had raised them to take upon the mantle when the time was right. Even if only one of them could ascend to the throne, the both of them were just as capable. Odin knows, if he so wants it, he can take care of this the old-fashioned way. Send the destroyer, or even send some of his men to take care of Loki, to bring him back home away from temptation. But, how would he be a fair father and a fair king if he only teaches Thor a lesson for his arrogance, but doesn't teach Loki a lesson because of his jealousy and pranks? Tell me, great Heimdall. Heimdall glances at Odin as the All-Father speaks, does my son nears this shadows with a poisoned heart and ill intentions? No, I would be the first one to admit Loki's mischievous ways. Heimdall trails off and Odin notices a slightly, almost imperceptible twitch off his lips. I can say with certainty ill intentions and a poisoned heart are not part of Loki at the moment. There is something else, something Heimdall isn't sharing with the All-Father, but, for the moment, Odin is happy to know his son is well, that his heart isn't harboring wicked intentions. He decides then the situation can wait. This would be the chance Loki needs to show Odin he can be the son Odin knew he was. It is like this, Odin decides to give his younger son, his second-born, the last straw of the All-Father's trust. Before he leaves, Odin asks his last question, do you think, Heimdall, this darkness is overly dangerous? It is too early to say, my king. But, Prince Loki is known for his ability to get out of difficult situations. If given the chance, I think these shadows would soon disperse and your son would deal with them. There it was again, the tone of voice Odin doesn't know how to place or define. He looks at Heimdall, his mind isn't sure even Loki's ability to lie and trick are going to be enough to deal with the darkness. There are so many secrets that Odin thinks better to keep hidden unless circumstances oblige him to do so otherwise. After all, Thor and Frigga ignore Loki's fate, they are still ignorant of his whereabouts or even of his well-being. Odin turns his back to the gatekeeper, his voice reaching Heimdall's ears as Odin walks away. Neither Thor, nor my wife, are to know about this, Heimdall. Not unless something was to happen and they are the only option left. Yes, my king. Balder smirks, showing off his white, shining teeth as he grabs the back of Fenrir's neck, pushing the young man to the ground. There is a general sound of approval, cheers and giggling, from the young maidens that are out watching the training sessions. Fenrir growls, showing off his own version of a smirk. On him it looks menacing, more dangerous as he shows white, pointy fangs. Thor is scowling, his blue eyes taking in the scene in front of him, sensing the oncoming trouble. Sif has on her an expressionless face. This isn't the first time Balder does something that places his intentions and his honor under suspicion from the Lady Sif. Loki may have been the trickster, but Balder tends to be too charming to actually be truthful. Come on, nephew. I know there is more spirit for this fight than this. Balder spreads his arms, presenting himself to Fenrir with a trace of mockery in his blue eyes. Or, could it be possible, you are like your father? Better with tricks and knives instead of fighting like a true warrior. Balder's eyes are gleaming with the same mockery as before. Sif actually looks horrified while the warriors three look uncomfortable. Some of the maidens laugh openly, and Thor is cracking his knuckles. But, even as he stands proudly and defiant, Balder is incapable of prevent the strike direct to his always shining face and teeth. Don't you dare to mock the name of my father, Balder. Fenrir growls, his fist still close to his side. He takes a few steps forward only to be stopped by a hand on his shoulder. He doesn't need to turn to know who is stopping him from creating more trouble. It was but an innocent comment, there wasn't any ill meaning behind my words. Fenrir. Sif narrows her eyes while Hagun tenses up, there is something off here, even if Balder looks genuinely apologetic. I apologize if I have offended you. Balder bows his head. Fenrir grits his teeth even if he feels a silent satisfaction when he sees the brown-haired man wipe away the blood from his nose and mouth. I do not believe your words hold no malice. It is a well-known fact you don't like father. Fenrir spats out with as much venom as he can muster. Your words have offended and wound us deeply, Balder. The man winces as he heard Thor for the first time. The blonde-haired god isn't happy and he is hovering near Balder as he speaks. You, who mourn the loss of our brother the same way Fenrir and I did, should know those words are unfit coming from a family member. I know, brother Thor. I know. Balder, again, bows his head. I apologize, I feel sorry, I don't understand what happened to me. Be sure it doesn't happen again, Balder, or next time you're going to wipe blood from the slash I'll place on your throat. Fenrir. The young man frees himself from his uncle's grasp. He evades Thor's eyes, giving his back to the man. I am very sorry, my prince. I thank you for the invitation, but, as of now, I feel indisposed. Balder follows with his eyes the retreating form of Fenrir. Once he turns his stare to Thor, he realizes the warriors Three and Sif are looking at him. It is an uncomfortable moment. He realizes, even after a year, it is too early to play with the Loki problem. It would take time, but, in the end, all of them would forget all about the trickster. He holds on to his feelings, being careful to reveal anything that may betray what he is thinking or feeling. He straightens up, smiling tentatively while offering the arena to Fandral and Thor, urging them to show off his fighting skills. With some reluctance, both men take upon Balder's words and start their own fight. In less than a few minutes they are engaged in the training, laughing and taunting the other. Balder turns, flashing Sif a blinding grin, but this grin soon falters under the scrutiny of her grey eyes. Is it something the matter, Lady Sif? Sif glances one more time before turning around. No, nothing you should concern about. Sif never notices the shadow crossing Balder's blue eyes, not the sudden coldness in his face. Elemental world, fire country, Konoha. Naruto is watching bored as Iruka and Mizuki explain the mechanics behind the form of the kunai and the correct way to throw them. That day is target shooting day and all of his classmates are excited. So far, Naruto has discovered the Ninja Academy isn't what he dreams it would be. Half of their classes are theory. They study history, how the world he lives in came to be. He learns about the Biju and the different clans. He learns about the bloodline limits and the sealing techniques. He learns about the Kage, the Jonin, the Chunin, and the Genin. The academy turns into a never-ending 6 months until, one day, their teachers decide they are ready. Finally they were to learn ninjutsu, taijutsu, and genjutsu. Hence, the target shooting. Naruto yawns, Shin chuckles, Sai shakes his head and Iruka has a nervous tick on his left eyebrow. Now that I taught you what you should do, why don't you try it? Iruka eyes the class before settling his eyes in Neji. How about you, Neji? Want to try? Neji looks as if the mere question is offensive, as if the exercise is a useless piece of teaching material. Naruto has to agree, he can throw straight to the target without even looking at the target. Not that Iruka or Mizuki know this, they look at Naruto as if Naruto is a fly entering forbidden territory. The only ones who seem to enjoy Naruto's presence are Shin and Lee. Naruto hasn't decided what Sai feels because the boy is a complete lunatic when social activities are involved. There are 3 targets. The idea of the exercise is to score a bullseye. Even if Neji is considered a prodigy, it is not highly probable he would get them all. So, Naruto watches with his arms crossed and a skeptical expression on his face. Neji raises an eyebrow and proceeds with the exercise. Shin notices the satisfied smile on Naruto's face when Neji only gets 1 bullseye and the rest are close but not quite there. Still, it is way better than most of them can ever hope to do. Excellent, Neji. You did pretty well. Iruka looks impressed while taking the kunai off. Can I try it, Iruka-sensei? Iruka turns to the blonde who has a secret smile in place. His blue eyes are gleaming but, otherwise, the young boy looks completely innocent. Iruka has learnt, the hard way, when Naruto looks like this it means trouble. Still, this may prove interesting. Do you think you can do it, Naruto? It is a question mean to hurt and to discourage. Eureka scowls as Mizuki smiles innocently after he asks the question. The smile on the blonde never falters and he merely nods his head. Very well, then go ahead. Then, because it would be more interesting, Mizuki speaks up. If you get this correct, Naruto, you won't have to present the written exam in history. Wow, really? Mizuki nods his head smiling. Most of the kids are whispering, mocking Naruto. Eureka looks conflicted but says nothing. You promise, right? Yes, I do. But, you have to do all the targets. Naruto smirks, grabbing the 10th kunai on his hand while watching the targets. It is pure poetry. He moves with ease and determination, each launch is perfect, hitting the intent target with force. Never faltering until the kunai disappear from Naruto's hand, silence fills the training grounds. No one is speaking, no one is breathing because no one can believe what just happened. No way. It is Lee the first one to react. Naruto-kun. You did it. The fire in you burns like 1,000 suns. Naruto feels proud of himself, he just showed his classmates, and his teachers he can do it. That he isn't to be ignored in favor of Neji. But, when Naruto turns to Mizuki and Eureka there isn't surprise or even acceptance, there is only darkness and a silent anger. Mizuki turns, pinning Naruto with a dark glare. What did you do? No one your age is capable of such a feature. There is something wrong in the whole thing, his teachers should be more receptive of this accomplishment. They shouldn't be scared or angry, but they are, and Naruto doesn't know what to do or say. I'm just good with my aim. I've been training since I was 5. The only one capable of this at your age was Uchiha Itachi, and that was only because he had already awakened his Sharingan. Eureka speaks, still looking at Naruto with strange eyes. What did you use? Naruto blinks. Half the class does because they don't understand completely the implication of such a question. Naruto frowns, crossing his arms and pursing his lips. I use my eyes, and my hands. It's not difficult to hit the bullseye once you know how to throw a kunai. The class is suddenly dismissed and Naruto is walking away angry. Shin is following close behind him, he has a small frown and Sai seems occupied with some of his drawings. I don't get it. Naruto sits on the stool in the ramen stand. Shin and Sai follow his example. I did it perfectly. All of them hit straight in the target. Why is Eureka and Mizuki angry with me? Maybe they were expecting Hyuga-san to be the perfect one. Sai thanks Teiuchi while taking a small bite of his food. They seem to prefer him over the rest of the class. It isn't fair. Mizuki said I wouldn't present the history exam. Naruto dives in, hungry and angry. Well, if you need help, we can always study together. Proposes Shin, to which Naruto flashes a huge grin. Really? Shin smiles back, nodding. Of course. It would be fun, and you can also teach us that technique of yours with the kunai. Naruto beams, nodding his head. Of course, of course. It is almost 9 days when Naruto sees Loki again. While Loki is a constant in Naruto's life, the young blonde knows Loki has work to do. Sometimes the god would share his adventures, some others he would tell the stories Naruto loves so much. Some, like this one, Loki arrives hurt as if he just engaged in a brutal battle. The only consolation Naruto has is that, it doesn't matter how hurt Loki seems to be, it never is as bad as it appears to be. However, it doesn't mean Naruto is not worried about Loki. The man has a nasty cut on his cheek, his clothes are torn at some places and his face is a mask of tiredness. Naruto's 7th birthday is approaching and the blonde knows Loki, wherever he was, just make it in time for it. He tries to organize his home, to have a spot for Loki to rest while Naruto prepares his favorite tea. Loki watches with a mixture of warmth and amusement while Naruto babbles away about his adventures in the academy. He speaks of the history he has learnt, he speaks of the taijutsu and the ninjutsu, of what he can and cannot do. Loki has learned to read in between lines. He knows there is more about the story than Naruto lets on. But Loki also knows Naruto would reveal his thoughts with time. Loki, what happened to you? Naruto sits eyeing the god with curiosity. You look as if you didn't see where you were going and fell down a hill. Loki rolls his eyes. Yes, that's exactly what happened. How would you know one can look like this when falling from a hill? Naruto smiles sheepishly. Loki rolls his eyes once again. I am to assume I don't want to know. Nope, probably no. Loki takes a sip from his cup. He glances at Naruto for a long time. He tilts his head and places his hand on top of his jacket where he can feel the weight of the scroll hidden inside. Do you have any plans for this weekend, Naruto? Naruto blinks, jumping startled at the sudden question. No, Shin and Sai are leaving with their guardian and Lee is going to run around the village. Naruto answers dryly. Loki raises a single eyebrow but doesn't question any further. He has heard about the peculiarities of some of Naruto's friends. And, Ajaji is going away to Suna. Loki nods his head without saying anything else. He knows Saturday is going to be Naruto's 7th birthday. He also knows this would be the second birthday he shares with Loki but the first one he shares alone with him. It is the perfect opportunity to take Naruto away to some of his missions. I think I would need some help. Loki eyes Naruto out of the corner of his eye. The boy tenses up in anticipation. Really? Yes, some of my missions may require some assistance. Loki is careful with his words, gauging the blonde's reaction. Would you be interested in accompanying me? By now, Loki has gotten used to Naruto's sporadic hugs. The blonde exudes happiness and excitement. He is running around babbling about what he would need, how he would help in anything he can. How he can pretend this is one of the quests the warriors 3, Lady Sif, the god of mischief and the mighty Thor have on occasions. Loki holds back any retort, any snarky comment he may have regarding his idiotic brother, his 3 geese and Lady Sif. Naruto then proceeds to sit down and look up at Loki with admiration and a hint of eagerness. Are we going now? No, tomorrow, after your classes. Says Loki, who is mildly amused but the disappointed look that crosses Naruto's face. Why? Naruto whines, pouting a little. Tomorrow there is going to be more history lessons and we're going to study Bunshin and some henge which I suck at. With more reason we should stay. Replies Loki, ruffling Naruto's hair. You're of not use to me if you don't know your ninja tricks. I can make you tea. You like my tea? Loki smirks, leaning in. And when you can defeat an enemy with your tea skills you will be prepared. Then he leans back, looking directly into Naruto's eyes. You're going to that academy of yours tomorrow and then we will leave. Okay. Naruto mumbles defeat, then his blue eyes gleam and he sends Loki his best version of the puppy dog stare. Loki, can you tell me a story? Loki frowns upon the way these mortals teach. Their methods are completely useless and it is obvious most of them are meant for the ones they deem worthy. Naruto is being ignored in favor of others. This has Loki's blood boiling. He sees in the eyes of Naruto's instructors the same look he witnessed in the eyes of the Aesir when the Jotun were mentioned. Monsters. Loki is leaning against a tree, hiding himself from the curious eye. He knows part of Naruto's treatment is because of what he holds inside. He knows these instructors are twisting their teachings so Naruto can't be successful. The only moment Naruto seems to be at an advantage is when he is doing targeting practice. Loki smiles with pride because the boy never misses one single target. Once he is finished he smirks at his teachers cockily and returns to his spot. But, something must be done if Naruto is to be the best of the best. It is time for Loki to ask for a favor from a pretty old client. Where are we? Naruto is looking around with curious eyes. His hand is caressing some of the wooden plaques adorning the wall of the temple. He tries to read some of them, but it is difficult to do so in some cases. Who is Lysmith? Loki lifts his eyes from one of the plagues he has in his hand. He looks at Naruto before returning his eyes to the task at hand. It is one of my names. Naruto blinks, taking the wooden plaque from the rope it is hanging and proceeds to read it. He frowns, reading the contents again. This one says you can help him kill a rival merchant. Loki raises his eyes again, nodding. Yes, I can. But, no, I won't. Naruto frowns, looking confused and conflicted. Out of the corner of his eyes Loki watches the blonde. It takes a moment before Naruto drops the plaque on his hand and goes to another one. This one says he needs you to damage the harvest from his neighbor because he needs more money. Loki keeps the first plaque he is reading, placing it in his pocket. He stands his full height as Naruto goes through several of the prayers asking for favors. Some of them bring a scrunched nose and indignant huffs of air from the blonde. Some others don't make any sense to him, and there are others that make him laugh. Why are all of these people putting this in here? Asks Naruto once his curiosity is sated. He scrunches his nose, eyeing Loki. It's as if they think you're a god. Loki smirks, wide and open, leaning towards Naruto, who knows that expression too well. And why they shouldn't. Naruto snorts, shaking his head. You're no god. You're Loki. Loki blinks, stares at Naruto and then laughs. Naruto is confused and gets just a little annoyed because he doesn't like to be left out of the joke. He pokes at Loki, glancing up at him. Don't laugh. I'm serious. I know you are, that's what makes everything funnier. Loki turns around and walks towards the stairs leading to the main street away from the temple. Naruto is silent for a long time, following Loki with a contemplative stare. He watches as Loki moves with ease, evades certain people and makes sure some others look him. He then grabs Loki's hand, startling the god as he feels the warmth of Naruto's hand around his cold one. You never explain to me why those people ask you to do those stupid things. Ah, right. Loki looks ahead of himself, moving with ease to his destiny. You see, my work here is free of any attachments to any village. You may say I'm a freelance. Naruto frowns, tasting the word. You mean, like a ninja who works for anyone or everyone? Yes, that's exactly what I mean. Naruto opens his mouth, but Loki continues. I do not take all the jobs, only those that amused me or interested me. So, have you killed? Loki doesn't stop, but he feels the tensing coming from Naruto. Suddenly, Loki feels the need to be agreeable to Naruto, for Naruto to hate him. Loki doesn't glance at Naruto, he readies himself for the worst. Yes, I have killed. Countless of times. Oh. Naruto gulps, squeezing Loki's hand tightly. Is it hard? The question is so innocent Loki has to stop himself, turn around and kneel in front of Naruto. There is curiosity in those blue eyes, but there is also determination and acceptance. Yes, it is always hard. Because, really? Loki can't lie about this. It is hard, it never gets easy, but he does it and sometimes enjoys it. That's the truth behind someone who was raised in a place that loves war. Someone who loves fighting as much as he enjoys his magic and his books. Naruto grins shyly at Loki. I want to be as brave as Thor, Sif, Volstagg, Fandral, Hagun, and you Loki. I know it's gonna be difficult, but I wanna be like you guys. Naruto lets go of Loki's hand and takes off running, laughing happily while Loki stays down, totally shocked at the unexpected revelation. He turns to see Naruto standing in front of an ice cream stand, completely unaware he left a dumbstruck Loki behind. In all his years, Loki narrows his eyes, his lips quirking upwards. Naruto is certainly someone special, unpredictable, and has with him a sharp mind. Loki is very tempted to ask when Naruto discovered Loki is part of those stories they share at night, but decides against it as they arrive to their destination. This is a bar? Says Naruto, taking a long lick from his ice cream. Yes, it is. I can't enter a bar. Loki rolls his eyes, waving his hand in front of Naruto to change his appearance. Naruto gasps, looking at his reflection in front of the window glass. He is an exact copy of Loki, only much younger, with black hair and blue eyes. See? You can enter now. Naruto follows Loki inside. The blonde gasps when he notices Loki changing his form as well. This time he is looking like Thor, holding on his right hand a scepter while moving swiftly through the numerous tables. Naruto is close behind, looking around with big, shocked eyes at the men drinking, the women, and the men kissing. Among other things. He turns an interesting shade of red when his eyes fell upon a pairing doing things Naruto never thought possible. He covers his eyes, almost crashing against Loki. The god turns to see Naruto and he has to bite back a chuckle. Maybe this isn't one of his best ideas, but he really needs to contact the man. He wraps an arm around Naruto and leads him inside a room. Took you long enough, I was hoping you changed your mind. Naruto's eyes fall upon the form of an old man. He has long, white hair, some strange marks on his face. The man is smiling while signaling Loki and Naruto to sit down. I didn't know you were coming accompanied. Yes, well, it seems it is time for you to repay my favor. Jiraiya tenses, his eyes narrow with suspicion. I see. Jiraiya takes a sip from the bottle beside him, he eyes Loki then at Naruto in disguise, he knows he can't deny Loki anything. They have met regularly as Jiraiya's hunger for information about Akatsuki grows. Smith has proven to be one of the best sources of information. This has its pros and cons. For one, Jiraiya has enough information to deal with the group of Rouge Ninja, however, it makes his debt to Smith far too big and it gives the man the right to ask for whatever he wants. How to deny anything to the man in front of him? After all, the information Smith had given to Jiraiya had been useful. More than the Sunin thought so at first. Here a gift you may find interesting. Jiraiya grabs the scroll Loki puts from under his coat. I do hope you enjoy the reading as much as I enjoy the gathering. Jiraiya glances at the man then at the scroll, he grabs them with anxiety looking first one then the other. There is a frown upon his features, there is a tightening of his jaw and coldness behind his eyes. Whatever Loki has brought it seems to affect the old man greatly. Well? What do you say? Your information has proven to be accurate. Jiraiya sighs. Scarily accurate, I'm afraid. This means, I won't deny you almost anything. Excellent, because I know you are one of the best ninja there is in these lands. Loki waves his hand and the illusion around Naruto disappears slowly. And I need you to train him in those ninja arts. Jiraiya feels as if a bucket of cold water is dropped on top of his head. He feels as if 1,000 nails are digging deep inside his skin. He feels the trembling all around his body, and the sweat on his hands. The Toad Sunin opens his mouth, and then closes again, finally. Naruto. That's it for part 2. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.